Welcome to Pop-O-Holics, a show about hot takes hotter than hot, tasty pancakes. I'm your host, Christian Cady, and welcome to another weekly upload, both listeners and YouTube watchers, also known as viewers. What do we do on the show? Oh, we talk about the latest in pop culture. Later, for listeners exclusively, we talk about what we've been consuming and have some community feedback. But it's not just me, your beautiful host, Christian Cady. Did I say that? No, I'm joined by my two best buds.
Chris Conkling.
And Brian Dupree. Yep, that's how we do it normally. So if you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. We do have a podcast you can listen to. You can listen to the whole thing. We have a link. It goes all over the internet to our social media, so we appreciate a follow there, a subscribe, smash it, Hulk smash that subscribe button. But this is going to be a news corner for the watchers, and we're going to be talking about the latest announcements from E3. There was the Electronic Entertainment Expo.
So as everyone knows it.
That's what everybody calls it all the time.
Commonly known.
Absolutely. And so we're going to talk about all that, some Disney Plus release schedule news, and then we've got Brian's going to list off the latest movies coming out, of which there are a few, and a couple other stuff. And then for our what we've been consuming, and that's for listeners only at the moment, I'm finally on the Loki train, so we're going to talk a little more Loki, as we did last week. Brian watched In the Heights and has read a new comic book, or maybe an old comic book. We'll find out. And I'm going to talk about the new Ratchet and Clayton video game, which is very exciting. Very cool stuff. So let's start the way we do on the show, which is with Brian's Wacky News Corner.
Welcome back to the Wacky News Corner, everyone. So as Christian said, we have got a ton of E3 news, and I'm hoping the guys have a decent bit to say about this, because as loyal watchers and listeners will know, I am very much not the video game guy on the podcast. But with that being said, there's still some exciting stuff. So starting off with the E3 announcements from Nintendo, we've got a new trailer for the Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel that will be coming out next year in 2022. We've also got a trailer for Metroid Dread that'll be coming out on October 8th. We've got Mario Golf Super Rush that'll be coming out this week, the June 25th on Friday, and Mario Party Superstars that's coming out on October 29th of this year, as well as a reboot of Advanced Wars 1 and 2 and WarioWare Get It Together, all coming to Switch. And Advanced Wars will be out December 3rd, and WarioWare will be out September 10th of this year. So of these, I've played only a bit of Breath of the Wild. I know both of you guys have played this, but it was ridiculously impressive to me, even playing it a decent amount of years after it came out. I think of these, that's probably the one that is most anticipated for me, but I will say I can appreciate a good Mario Party game, so I'm looking forward to that as well as a pretty new Switch owner. So how do you guys feel about these Nintendo announcements?
No, I'm pretty sure we can just probably move on.
No one cares.
I don't think
about
Chris has any exciting things to say about it.
Definitely not.
Wait,
yeah, I don't have anything.
Hold on, I got Chris, just open your mouth real quick.
I'm excited, dude.
And thanks, Chris. We know.
Perfect.
Such natural ADR.
I
Chris,
told you guys, I'm a ventriloquist at heart.
You are the resident Nintendo nerd. The resident Nintendo nerd. So please,
Nerdtendo.
What are your impressions of what Nintendo showed at their Treehouse Live event? I'm not even sure if it's officially part of E3. It's just E3 season. I'm not sure if they're involved
It
in
is
E3.
part of E3. Every year they do present a direct at E3, and then they typically have a Treehouse Live in which they demonstrate gameplay from some of the games that they just announced. I have to tell you guys, I went into this direct with pretty high hopes. E3 as a whole, and we'll get into the other announcements, had been pretty lukewarm for me. Really, when I go into E3, I'm like, what is Nintendo announcing and what is Square Enix announcing? And that's really what I'm looking forward to most. I don't own an Xbox, but I know the Xbox event is a huge deal as well. I just don't get as excited about that. For those that are unaware, this year is Zelda's 35th anniversary. It's also Pokemon's 25th anniversary. Last year was Mario's 35th anniversary, and they released a ton of stuff to kind of celebrate Mario's birthday, right? And as of this year so far, we really haven't gotten a lot of Zelda news outside of the Skyward Sword HD release coming to Switch at the beginning of July. And that's great. It's not the most popular Zelda game, but it is still a really good and fun game. And I'm excited that it's being ported to the Switch. I already have it pre-ordered. But what I was really looking for in this Direct was more Zelda news. I wanted more 35th anniversary celebration for that franchise. It's one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. And I know a lot of people are excited about Metroid Dread. It's the first Metroid game, or at least 2.5D Metroid game that's been released in 19 years. The last one that came out for the 3DS, Samus Returns, was a remake, so it's technically not like a sequel. So that's super exciting. I don't play a lot of the Metroid games, but I know a lot of people are very pumped about that release. So I would say that Metroid Dread and the Breath of the Wild 2 footage that we saw were probably the most exciting aspects of this Direct. But overall, I was kind of disappointed with the whole thing. Like I mentioned, in terms of 35th anniversary Zelda content, they brought out a little Zelda-themed Game & Watch, which they also released last year. It was Mario-themed for his 35th anniversary. And they even said, we have no other plans to release anything else other than this Game & Watch. And the Zelda fan in me, my heart just like sank, you know? And yes, it's a 35th, it's not a 40th. So I'm sure for the 40th, we're going to get more content. But the Breath of the Wild 2 footage, oh my God, like we didn't get a lot, but I was definitely super hyped. The game looks beautiful. I cannot wait to see more. We're just scratching the surface right now in terms of what we know about that game. But being able to reverse time, it looks like, and Link is doing this thing where he's like traveling in water droplets into the sky. The sky seems to be like a heavy theme in this game, and I wonder if that's intentional considering we're getting the Skyward Sword release this year as well. So yeah, that was the highlight of the Direct, the Breath of the Wild 2 footage. And there's other fun stuff here. The Mario Party game, that's a little disappointing. Like, I didn't expect it to be a complete game all by itself. There currently is a Mario Party game out for the Switch, and I think it would have been better suited to be DLC for that game, considering that game only has 5 boards attached to it right now. So with this new game coming out, they could have added an additional 5 boards, given that game a little more bang for its buck, but instead, no. Now you're going to have to pay for a new game with boards that we've already seen in the past from like the N64 version and stuff like that. So that wasn't as exciting as like I wanted it to be. But yeah, it lukewarm outside of like the last 3 minutes of a 40-minute presentation, which I would say isn't like a good track record. Despite those last 3 minutes being very exciting, the Direct overall was just meh. Christian, I know you're not like a giant Nintendo fan, but what are your opinions about these releases?
Well, Chris, I did the smart thing this year with my E3 enjoyment, which is I was too busy the entire time all this was happening, and I didn't watch anything except for all the cool trailers. And I found myself enjoying a lot more of the announcements and being more excited about all the things that are happening overall, but even specifically with Nintendo. I watched the Breath of the Wild trailer, and I was like, okay, cool. There's a lot to look into there if you watch like the breakdowns. I mean, there's a lot of cool mechanics that are suggested in that. But I think everybody already knew and was very excited about that game. It looks like more of the same. It looks like Breath of the Wild, which is great. It looks like more Breath of the Wild. I'm not sure you can glean much more than like, what's going on with Link's arm? Okay, he's like phasing through stuff. There's some like color changes that happen. It's like, okay, right. It seems like more like Breath of the Wild 2.0, which is exactly what they were pitching it as to begin with. So not anything like revelatory there. I think a new 2D Metroid is very exciting. Metroid Fusion is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Metroid Fusion, which was on the Game Boy Advance, and that was the first and pretty much only Metroid game I've ever played besides Super Metroid on my SNES Mini.
And isn't Dread like a direct sequel to Fusion?
It is. Or I think it's a prequel. I think it's either a prequel or a sequel to Fusion, because he's wearing the Fusion outfit. She, excuse me. Samus is a female. So she's wearing the fusion suit either in preparation to discovering what happens or whatever. But so that's exciting because I really loved the newer Metroid 2D stuff. So I'm excited that we get that. I know fans were really wanting Metroid 4 news, of which we got none. But
I can't believe it.
It is to be expected with COVID and everything. And I think there's enough here. There's a WarioWare game, which is super exciting. That's a really fun franchise if you've never dived into that. So out of
Very
Nintendo
quirky.
stuff. Yeah, and new Mario, enter sports name. We get Super Rush, which is this ice skating golf? What's going on with Super Rush? Oh, it's Mario Golf. Yeah, I just saw like the picture. I was like, is he on the ice? Yeah, we'll bring it on. It's all cool stuff, and this is cutting into like Ubisoft's thing, but we get Mario plus Rabbids, which is technically Ubisoft and Nintendo news.
You enjoyed playing, so
I did. I still haven't beat it, so maybe I'm not the best proponent of it, but I did enjoy it, and I think if you've never played a game like that, I can see you getting much more into it than I did. It's very similar to XCOM and all that, but more content for that, so there's enough in the audience there. So I think overall, not too bad, but I also didn't sit through a 45-minute press conference,
right.
Which is, I think, clutch. That's a clutch decision. So I
think you probably did it the best way, and it might be how I tackle E3 next year, because you got to cherry pick which things you wanted to watch, kind of snipe the highlights of each presentation. So
yeah, I
think you did it the right way.
Overall,
I'm excited, dude. Me too.
Incredible.
Brian,
Incredible.
What else we got?
So, moving on, we've got some Square Enix announcements, which I imagine Christian will have a bit more to say on these. We've got a Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game that was announced, single-player, third-person adventure game that is coming out October 26th. So, this one, I know the Avengers game came out. I think it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of playability. Christian, you can talk to that. But there's also a expansion coming for that game, Marvel's Avengers War for Wakanda, that will be out in August of this year. We've got a game called Babylon's Fall, which I had not heard of, and I'm not sure if you guys were familiar with. But that was also after 3 years. The trailer was released for that one. And we've also got the Life is Strange Remastered Collection that was announced, with both the previous releases and that being re-released, as well as Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, a Final Fantasy spin-off game. So those are the new ones from Square Enix. Christian, let's start with you. How are you feeling about these?
Yeah, I think most people that are like big Square Enix fans were definitely hoping for more of that PlayStation Final Fantasy game information. The one that we saw at the PS5 reveal, and we didn't get nothing on that. So I know a lot of fans of the Final Fantasy series are a little disappointed, understandably so. But for Avengers, listen, I've been playing all these expansions. I've come in, I've played the single player content, and then I just get out because I realize they haven't touched the end game and there's nothing interesting to do still there. Like, they've added a few challenges, but really for a game that came out, at this time, it's almost a year at this point.
Yeah.
There's really not much more to do with your friends. The mechanics are still fun, but there's still not a terrible amount to do, and the stuff that's there is very grindy. It's very much like if you want to enjoy some of the cooler in-game stuff, and by cooler I mean recycled levels from the very first release and just over and over again, you have to do that over and over again, and it's just they haven't even touched that, maybe because they've had the teams pulled off to do other things. But Black Panther looks awesome in this, and he looks like he's going to be fun. Again, the mechanics of this game are so solid that it's fun to come in and play it. But the whole concept of the game is broken because when you come back, and when everybody comes back, everybody's playing as Black Panther. So you don't want to team up with your friends because you're all just playing as Black Panther in a Black Panther story. And then you get to the end of that 4-hour campaign, which was probably good. They've all been pretty good. I've played the Hawkeye as well as the Kate Spade. Not Kate Spade. Is it Kate Spade? Kate Spade is
Bishop.
Kate Bishop. Katie Spade is a designer who tragically had an end to her life. It's very awful. Anyway, Kate Bishop. Those have been awesome to play through, but the problem is you get on, you want to play as that character, so the whole premise of the game joining up with your friends is completely annihilated. And then by the time you get there, you want to level that character again, so you don't really want to play the friends because you've played all the other characters. The whole conceit of the game is just it's bad from the start. It's very like Anthem territory where it's like, oh, you just you made this like single player, very boring thing along with multiplayer, and no one wants to do any of the things fun to get. It's like the whole premise is dumb, but they're still whacking at it. I'm gonna play it. It's all free, so thanks. I'm gonna enjoy that 4-hour campaign. And I'm going to realize that you still haven't touched the end game, and I'll be done. But all that, like, the trailer looks cool. It all looks cool. Maybe we just want a Black Panther game. And I think part of me thinks that the Guardians were going to be playable characters in the Avengers game. And they were like, yeah, this whole premise isn't working. We're going to finish out our slate of promised characters and probably slowly just, like, kill this thing. And, we're getting a Guardians game, which looks like kind of what everybody wanted out of Avengers, which is going to be this single-player fun adventure, and that's gonna be it, right? And I think that's a winner. So although I did not catch the trailer for that, I can almost just assume that it's running the same exact engine, and it's just going to incorporate maybe team-based mechanics or something interesting like that. So I'm super excited for that. This is a good time. The Life is Strange series is something I've been really interested in. But I haven't dived in. I've heard nothing but good things. So to have all the games in a collection is really cool. So I think overall, like, again, if this was just like a Tuesday afternoon of like Square Enix is like, hey, everybody, gather around. Nintendo Direct, PlayStation Plays. What the fuck are they called?
State of Play is the equivalent for Sony.
Exactly. If it was one of those, it'd be like, wow, what a great little news dump. But because it's E3 and there was a pandemic and it's all virtual, doesn't quite have the gravitas.
Yeah.
But Chris, what do you think about some of these announcements?
As loyal listeners know, I haven't played the Avengers game. I watched the entire campaign through playthroughs, and I watched Christian stream part of the multiplayer over on the Pop-O-Holics YouTube channel. So if you're interested in watching Christian play that with some of our friends, head over there. But yeah, I wasn't super excited about the extended content that they're releasing for that game. The Guardians of the Galaxy game looks really interesting, and I'm excited to learn more information about it. There's a really cool mechanic that's very kind of Mass Effect-y in that you have to make choices over the course of the game that determine how the game unfolds. How much those choices will actually impact the overall narrative, we'll find out once the game comes out. But I think that's a really interesting mechanic for a Guardians of the Galaxy game, considering that they're all, anti-heroes, essentially. So, like, not all of them share the same moral compass, which makes it fun to, like, mess around with the dynamics. Like, you're stuck as Star-Lord, to my understanding. You're not able to play any of the other characters. You just play as Star-Lord, but it's interesting because you choose how Star-Lord interacts with the rest of the Guardians. And I'm excited to see how that unfolds and, like I said, how much of an impact that actually has on the game. We don't know a whole lot about the other mechanics of the game. Knowing Square Enix, it's probably going to be super heavy RPG mechanics with skill trees and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm interested to learn more about this game. I wasn't super excited about it, which is crazy considering it's a Marvel property. Christian loves the skill trees.
Oh, dude, when I start a game and I just see like
skill tree.
If you've got a good skill tree where it's like, oh, it's kind of fun, but then it's like, jump 30 feet higher. I'm like, I can't wait to I'm going to kill so many fucking random ass monsters just so I can jump there. I'm like, jump 33 feet. I'm like, I can jump 50 feet higher. I'm going to keep killing monsters. Love skill trees. It's very rewarding.
All about them skill trees. But yeah, this game looks cool. The graphics look good. And then outside of that, I was hoping maybe we got a brief glimpse of some of the new Final Fantasy VII content that's coming out. Like the briefest of glimpses. Blink and you would have missed it. But they didn't touch any more on the second mobile game that's coming out. And that's really what I was there for. I wanted more Final Fantasy VII news, and they just didn't deliver on that. So again, I sat through an entire presentation and was like, wow, that was a huge waste of time. But we'll see how that Guardians game pans out.
Can you imagine if you just looked at the recap and went, no new Final Fantasy news. Oh, let me check out this trailer. Guardians, cool.
Like I'm telling you, dude, you did it the right way. It's how I'm going to do it next year.
Just didn't have any time. So it worked out very, very, very well for me. Because normally, I mean, when I was younger, I'd watch the whole thing all the way through and watch all of it and absorb. And I've heard so much about like, oh man, so much of it felt like it didn't respect people's time, which is sad to hear. But there's one press conference that I actually might watch all the way through because I gotta say, I think for me it wins. It wins as far as the content that I'm seeing is available. And what is that, Brian?
So we're moving into Bethesda's E3 announcements.
Bethesda Xbox.
Yeah, Bethesda Xbox.
Yes, because they recently acquired them.
So the big one that is something as a non-gamer that I obviously knew is Halo Infinite, which is slated to come out this year in the holiday season. No official date for that one yet. And as I understand it, we'll have a free-to-play multiplayer online version, which is kind of exciting to me, having played Halo from way back. That was one of the ones that I did get into and actually played through at least one of those games, which is rare for me. Also, we've got a game called Starfield that's coming out November 11th of next year. We've got Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, Redfall coming out summer of next year, and The Outer Worlds 2, which Chris sent us the trailer, and it doesn't show much about what the game is, but it is very meta and hilarious, and I really enjoyed it, even not having played the first game. So, a couple other ones.
Christian sent the trailer. But I commented on the trailer because I had seen it. I'd seen it previously because I watched the whole presentation.
Of course.
Chris, I have to ask you a question. We'll start with you because my big takeaway is, I'm a PlayStation guy and I owned a 360 and I owned an Xbox One, but I sold it. So I kind of have like distanced myself. Xbox for me just didn't have enough exclusive content. I just wanted to consolidate where I was buying games. It was just much easier to buy all my games on one system and one library to jump on and play all my games. And I chose Team PlayStation. But I gotta say, seeing this lineup, seeing the moves, getting Bethesda, I'm kind of thinking about getting at least an S or maybe like a stick or maybe a PC or something just so I can play some of these games. Did any of these excite you and make you go, ooh, Xbox, you looking kind of sexy lately?
None of these. So let me say this. I've never owned an Xbox ever. I've always been diehard Sony and Nintendo over the course of my entire life. And really that just started with like, as a child, what my parents were getting me, and then finally when I started buying my own consoles, I just continued with that trend. So Xbox has never really had the type of games that I like to play. For the most part, they're very shooter oriented, and that's not really like the genre that appeals to me. A lot of the games that I play that are on Xbox are also available on the PlayStation. So I've never really seen a need. That being said, and the Bethesda Xbox presentation was very early in E3. But even I, someone who has never owned an Xbox console and will probably not buy one in the future, was still very impressed with this presentation. It was just game after game after game, and most of these are going to be available on day one through their Play service. What do you know what it's called, Christian?
It is called Game Pass.
It
is pretty much like when I was in high school, Blockbuster did this like Game Pass, like where you could come and rent a game and return it, and you just paid like $30 a month, which was like, almost half the cost of a full price game. So instead of getting one game a month, you could just play whatever. And this is like that, but mixed with Netflix. And day one, you're getting like all of Bethesda.
It's insane,
dude. It is like the best value in gaming. Like if I had a kid and I was in like a period of my life where I wasn't gaming as much, and my kid wanted a gaming solution, Xbox Series S and Game Pass is just like a deal. It's like I pay $300 and then $100 a year, and my kid has so much shit to play. I mean, it is really a no-brainer. It's such a good deal. Such a good deal.
Yeah. So that alone, just the sheer number of things that they are presenting. Halo Infinite looks awesome for those that are fans of the franchise. Even Redfall, which is a new franchise that they just premiered, looks like a lot of fun. I'm down to kill some vampires with like special powers and stuff. It just looks fun, I'm probably never going to get to play it, but I'm excited for those that will. The Outer Worlds 2 trailer, like you said, Brian, was genuinely the best trailer of all of E3. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it because it just pokes fun at essentially the entire industry and how a lot of these convention presentations are formed. But yeah,
And while at the same time also saying absolutely nothing about their game, getting the games that it has the same purpose. Oh, I love it. It's
so great. They're just bringing attention to what they're actually doing. But yeah, I agree with you. This was 100% the strongest presentation for the entire weekend. And I don't even own an Xbox, but I was engaged. They announced a new Forza game. There was a lot of good content here.
Yeah, just a couple quick highlights because I know we've been on E3 for a bit. I kind of want to get an Xbox because with Game Pass and them owning Bethesda, it seems like a no-brainer having these games day and date. Starfield, which we got a quick glimpse at like just the visual style. There really wasn't a whole lot of there wasn't any gameplay or anything. But the developers afterwards in like a Q&A were saying like it's a Han Solo simulator meets Skyrim.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just conceptually, I don't know how that works. So I'm not sure what that means, but, it's going to be a new Bethesda game in space. That seems pretty damn cool. Halo, the free-to-play thing, I think they had already announced or at least teased at. It's how you have to do multiplayer games now, just because you need to build a player base. And right now there's just too much competition that's just free, like with Fortnite. Or with Apex Legends, or any of these other games that are free to play. But just for like, it's technically cross-platform with PC and Xbox. I mean, they're making as someone who's going to talk about Ratchet and Clank, which is a great game. I'm going to spoil my opinions. It's pretty amazing, and it's like the most next-gen game we've gotten yet. That game is $70. The game is $70, and like Xbox is building a future where they're like $30 Fire Stick. $15 subscription, $10 subscription, whatever it is, and you get 400 games, and they're and like 100 of them are AAA. It's
hard to compete with that.
Xbox is making the moves. Let me tell you right now, because their strategy is working out great. Chris, I'm going to stress this every time we bring this series up. The Outer Worlds, the first one, Microsoft had not bought that studio yet, so that is available on PlayStation. You have a PS5 now. The biggest problem with that game is the loading screens, which will be fixed if you load them on your super fast SSD on your PS5. We just replayed. We're almost done with the Mass Effect trilogy, dude. That it's like Mass Effect with a lot of humor. You need to play that game if you're a fan of Mass Effect. You're a fan of Skyrim or Fallout, any of those series. It's the cat's meow. It's a great game. So play the first Outer Worlds. That is cross-platform available. So I'm excited. Their second one, obviously, they're far out based on what they were saying. I just think a lot of cool stuff. And we're talking all about cars this month on the main topic with Fast and Furious. Forza Horizon's like one of the most gorgeous games that exist, and those games are a lot of fun. I'm not a racing car person much anymore. I used to like Need for Speed and all those. But man, the Horizon series is really fun. It's really arcadey, and they're gorgeous games, and they're just giving you more fun stuff to do in cars. They got a lot of really good-looking stuff that I'm really excited for, and that Bethesda acquisition is going to pay off in spades. Also, real quick, Psychonauts 2. They acquired that studio. It's a fun like platformer that people love. And then 12 Minutes, which I'm really excited. I actually haven't seen the trailer yet, but that like the preview for that trailer got me really excited.
I was going to mention 12 Minutes as well, starring James McAvoy and Daisy Ridley, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems to be
some
like
big names in there for that game.
A narrative-based like puzzle, psychological thriller type game. So that seems really innovative and cool. So, guys, I just don't know how I'm going to justify it, but I think I might get a Series S. Whatever, $300. I'll throw it in my back room, and that whatever. I'm so tempted. I'm right on the edge. I mean, what a deal. What a friggin' deal. And I have more to talk about on this podcast, which and less free time. That's good. That's what I need.
So yeah, everyone, let us know how you consumed E3, whether you watched along live or just checked in on Twitter as I did. Let us know in the comments. Moving on to the last piece of news proper. As of recording, the first 2 episodes of the new Disney Plus series Loki are out now. They did something a little different with this and released this on Wednesday as opposed to Friday like they'd done with the 2 previous Marvel shows, and it paid off for them. It turns out this is the most watched series premiere on Disney Plus, and because of this, All of their original scripted, unscripted, and animated series will be debuting on Wednesdays going forward. So they announced a whole sweep of shows for the next couple of months. None of the forthcoming Marvel shows, but it is implied that they will be a part of this as well. This, just purely from a selfish perspective, kind of works out good for us, as we've talked about before. We record on Thursday, so it makes it a little easy for us, well, some of us, to watch this as it's happening and talk about it ASAP for you guys to get our opinions out there. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty bold move after one show and only one episode of one show, really. How do you guys feel about this Disney Plus change?
I agree with you. I definitely think that it's a bold decision to make. Mickey and I were actually talking about this the other day. She's a huge fan of Loki, right? So this is the show that she has been most excited to see since the MCU shows were announced for Disney Plus. And when Disney came out and announced this the other day, I'm kind of two minds here in that, yes, like you said, Brian, I think airing them on Wednesday is a great idea. I would like to get like a little treat, a little Marvel treat in the middle of the week. You know, it's more convenient for us as a podcast because, like you said, our recording schedule is typically on Thursday. But it also makes me question, was it the day that caused it to have such a high viewership, or was it the character that caused it to have such a high viewership? And that's not information we'll be privy to until they release the second show on a Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. But Mickey and I were thinking that it's probably Loki that's actually driving the viewership, and that's not to say that, like, you know, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes or Wanda and Vision weren't draws. Like, those are also popular characters, but I think Loki, outside of the Avengers, is probably one of the most popular characters in the MCU. He's definitely one of the most fleshed out villains, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it definitely seems to be a kind of a rash decision, but I'm all for it. I'm not mad at it. Christian, how do you feel about this?
No, I'm going to push back a little bit because, I mean, with no evidence whatsoever, just gut instinct, and say that this is actually a smart move and the viewership is probably reflective of the change. Not saying Loki isn't more popular or anything. I don't know the stats on how popular characters are. But what I do know is that we're coming out of a pandemic in which people are going out a lot more. And so their weekends are going to be less full of them streaming content like it had been, and more of them going out and doing stuff on their weekends. The second point is that this kind of TV, I mean, just look, we're on the precipice of having a recap show. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to be, how much longer we're going to do Pop-O-Holics before we're just a fucking Marvel recap show. And so many of our friends and other podcasters stuff, they have recaps, and it's not just, it's a market for a reason. People love talking about it. You know where people love talking about it? They love talking about it at work. And so putting it right in the middle of the week, give something on a Wednesday, which is not typically an event related day where they can watch it the night before, come in on Thursday or Friday and talk about it with their friends. And I think that pushes more viewership in the kind of social situation we're in the United States. So I think they are accurate in moving it to Wednesday. Maybe Loki is an underlying push as a character for this particular jump, but I think overall this strategy coming out of the pandemic is stronger for their viewership and getting more people to watch week to week on a regular basis, and maybe not wait until like Sunday or Monday and then get behind because they've already forgot about it and whatever. So I think this is a smart play for more reasons than just that.
Yeah, those are all great points. I hadn't even considered that. I agree with you.
I win.
Christian is the winner of the day.
Declared. We'll see if it's effective and how long this lasts on Disney Plus. But yeah, so that's it for news proper. Moving on to some stuff that's coming out this week. We have a bunch of movies coming out this week. First, on Netflix, coming this Wednesday, is Good on Paper. So this is the directorial debut of Kimmy Gatewood in a screenplay by Eliza Schlesinger, who is a stand-up comedian who I am I've heard her name, and I feel like I maybe have heard her on podcasts at some point. I don't think I've ever watched one of her specials, but this stars Schlesinger herself, as well as Ryan Hansen, Margaret Cho, and Rebecca Rittenhouse. And the plot is a stand-up comic meets a guy who seems perfect, but possibly too good to be true. So this looks like a relatively generic type of story, but looks like it could be a good bit of fun, and will be on Netflix this Wednesday. Moving on, we have our entire month filmed around the Fast and the Furious franchise, and specifically around the release of the 9th installment, F9, that is coming exclusively to theaters this Friday. I have gotten more and more excited about this as the month has gone on. This is directed by Justin Lin, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Daniel Casey. It's the sequel to The Fate of the Furious from 2017, and stars Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Chris Ludacris Bridges, John Cena, Jordana Brewster, Natalie Emmanuel, Sung Kang, Michael Rooker, Helen Mirren, Kurt Russell, and Charlize Theron. And this movie is absolutely bonkers. We're introduced to a formerly unknown brother of Dom that, you have to add a new famous person every time they make one of these movies, and they somehow end up being one of the best characters every time. So I am totally here for it. That's F9. If you're in for these movies, I'm sure you are already aware of this one. But flying
We're talking
cars.
about all things Fast and Furious this month. On Wednesday's episode, we'll actually be covering Furious 7. And we talked about a couple of the other movies, so check out that our feed before to hear our thoughts on those. But we're excited. We're all getting together and going to see this in theaters this week. So
Yes, we
It's gonna
are.
be a lot of fun.
I cannot wait. Oh my gosh. Yes. So that's
Returning to the
F9.
Dolby Theater. I'm so excited.
ooh, baby,
gonna be
premium
big
viewing
and loud.
experience.
Oh yes. So that's F9 coming to theaters this Friday. Coming to Hulu this Friday is something that I hadn't heard of, but I'm actually really excited about. So this is False Positive, directed by John Lee, from a screenplay written by him and Ilana Glazer from Broad City. I know I was a pretty big fan of this show. I've never watched it front to back, but it's the type of show that I've never not enjoyed an episode that I've seen. It stars Glazer herself, as well as Justin Theroux, Sophia Bush, Josh Hamilton, and Pierce Brosnan, and is described as a contemporary take on Rosemary's Baby. So I feel like if you know about Rosemary's Baby, if you're in for a movie like that, this is probably going to be very up your alley and very homage-y to Rosemary's Baby and other movies like it, and starring a comedian as well. So,
Ooh, Brian's excited. I know Brian's excited.
oh, I will definitely be watching this one, yes. And that's on Hulu this Friday. The last movie is, frankly, this movie looks preposterous, but it could also be awesome. So this is The Ice Road, coming to Netflix this Friday. This is written and directed by Jonathan Hensley and stars Liam Neeson, as well as Lawrence Fishburne, Benjamin Walker, Amber Midthunder, Marcus Thomas, and many more. And the summary of this movie is, after a remote diamond mine collapses in the far northern regions of Canada, an ice driver leads an implausible rescue mission over a frozen ocean to save the lives of trapped miners, despite thawing waters in a threat they never see coming. This is a certain type of movie that I think takes a slight level of disbelief, even if they're, maybe it's based on a true story. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter, because the movie will be implausibly ridiculous at points. But it's going to be Liam Neeson doing what he does, getting his Liam Neeson on. I don't know. He's these days taking a certain type of role. And if you like that, I'm sure you'll be there for The Ice Road. That's coming to Netflix this Friday. Moving on to some TV. We've got The Mysterious Benedict Society coming to Disney Plus this Friday. So this is based on a young adult book series by Trenton Lee Stewart and stars Tony Hale, Christian Shaw, Mamaya Baofo, Ryan Hurst, and others. And the premise is 4 orphans, each possessing a unique skill, are summoned to a boarding school known as the Institute by an eccentric benefactor who wants them to stop a plot that could have consequences on a global level. This show looks very much geared towards children, but conceptually looks pretty interesting. And I was actually, after having watched the trailer, kind of intrigued to see where this goes. I thought it would be more like the Umbrella Academy than it is. Upon hearing about it plot-wise, Umbrella Academy I think is for an older audience, but this looked pretty cool and is coming to Disney Plus this Friday.
Sounds like a Harry Potter chaser.
It kind of, to me, it feels kind of like a series of unfortunate events meets Umbrella Academy. You know, like if Umbrella Academy was only focusing on the Umbrella Academy when they were children, which that show does not. Most of it takes place when they're adults. But that's kind of the vibe that I got from this show.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit, Chris. So yeah, that'll be on Disney Plus this Friday. And as we've already talked about, Mario Golf Super Rush is coming out this Friday for the Nintendo Switch.
Not an ice skating game, right?
Not an ice skating game, but it does come with a new feature called Speed Golf, where you play on a course simultaneously and have to run to your ball and see who can finish the fastest, which seems like it could be very fun. I played the first game for this on N64 way back. Never been huge into sports games, but I enjoyed this when I play it. I imagine if you're in for these games, it'll probably give you exactly what you're looking for. So that is Mario Golf Super Rush. That will be out on the Switch this Friday. And that is it for the news this week.
Brian, great news corner. Love to hear it. It's awesome. Glad we get to keep bringing this to our listeners and watchers exclusively.
And viewers.
And viewers. They aren't a thing. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Weekly Upload news section. People, gentlemen, individuals, where can people find more of your work on the internet?
Viewers and listeners, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Conkling, talking about all things nerdy, television, movies, comic books, video games, collectibles. If it's nerdy, I'm talking about it. I'm excited, dude. As you should be, past Chris.
And you can find me at True Pop-O-Holic. And smash that subscribe button below or above. I'm not familiar with YouTube's interface.
I think it's inside.
It's below.
It's inside your computer. You need to open up your computer and you need to smash.
The files are inside the computer.
I have music under Midnight Satire. Go follow that on your favorite streaming service or music player or whatever it is you do, and find at Midnight Satire at your favorite social media network. Exciting things on the rise. Really cool stuff. Maybe we'll incorporate some of the Pop-O-Holics boys and some of the upcoming
We'll have
content.
to see.
It'd be really cool. All right, subscribe on your favorite podcast player of choice. Again, we have this great, fun little link down below that you can click on and go wherever you need to go to find us. We'd love for you to participate. Send us an email. Rate us on the Apple Podcast platform. But that'll do it, and that'll do it for this episode of the YouTube section.